It was the power that destroyed the Sith in their totality. It was the devastator of a planet which resulted in the complete overhaul of the Jedi. When this weapon was detonated, it echoed and was heard across the galaxy through waves in the Force, as the galaxy around it would never be the same. This was the Thought Bomb. Welcome back, Seekers of the Force. The archives have been waiting for you. How does one totally reset an organization of powerful individuals? This was the issue facing one Darth Bane when he desired to remake the Sith, to instate the Rule of Two philosophy. There were many Dark Lords who existed during this time, all of them heretics. But that's when the dark side answered Bane with a piece of information, a piece of forbidden wisdom, a weapon like no other. The Thought Bomb's history didn't begin and end with Darth Bane's usage though, but in fact had a history of thousands of years before him, a legacy that survived 1,000 years. So join us as we talk about the most devastating Force weapon that has ever existed, and why the Thought Bomb was only used a single time. What actually is the Thought Bomb? What does it do? Contrary to its name, the Thought Bomb was not a physical weapon that was crafted from Sith alchemy or a kyber crystal. Yet it was indeed a super weapon. The Thought Bomb was a dark side ritual that no individual Sith could conduct alone. It required the combined might of many Dark Lords all working in unison to pull off successfully. The creation of the Thought Bomb required the collective focus of many Dark Lords, all considerably strong in the dark side. There would be one Sith who was designated as the master of the ceremony that would guide the other Sith during the ritual. It began as they all arranged themselves in a circular formation and joined hands. They would begin to chant the incantation and focus their power. They would focus the dark side inward, channeling it towards the center of their circle. The Force power would then begin to spin faster and faster, gaining power with each passing moment and every loop of the chant. While no Sith ritual was pleasant by any means, this ritual is quite disturbing because of what happens as soon as it begins. The expanding tides of darkness spun within the ring of Sith Lords, and so too did the minds of the united Sith being melded into a single, terrifying consciousness. All of the Sith present would begin to lose themselves to the ritual, becoming a singular mind with which to control the mighty power of the verging Thought Bomb. As the ritual progressed, the very thoughts, cognizance, and identities of the participants were consumed by the vortex of energy until they were all completely stripped of their individuality, transforming into a single entity in the Force. The participants would raise their hands towards the epicenter. This then gave corporeal form to the energy, which moments before had been invisible and immaterial. The temperature then drops dramatically, as all those present can begin to see their breath, causing frost to also form on the surface of the surrounding area, as well as on the very cloaks of the Dark Lords. All light, heat, and sound were drawn into the vacuum of the Thought Bomb. Tendrils of energy from a cloud of utter darkness formed over the master of the ceremony. This first construct of the Thought Bomb would be known as the Shell, and therein the Sith Lord would continue to channel his energy. Finally, the master of the ceremony would simply need to clap their hands once to instantaneously detonate the bomb. The deafening explosion destroyed everything in its path, and the souls of all Force-sensitive beings in close proximity were torn asunder as they were drawn into the epicenter of the bomb, destined for an eternity of unending torment. This obliterated all of those strong with the Force indiscriminately. However, despite the power of this weapon, there were possibilities of surviving it. Tremendous strength in the Force, or maintaining a considerable distance from ground zero, increased the chances of one's survival dramatically. But those who were able to withstand the initial detonation were not immune to the residual effects of the bomb. Some suffered the relentless headaches, even experiencing hallucinations in the hours, days, and weeks that followed. When the Thought Bomb is detonated, it doesn't simply kill Force users. That would be too easy. What it does is transform their essence. The slightly iridescent sphere absorbed all light, and yet emanated a pale radiance of its own, thrumming with rhythmic vibrations. It hovered a meter above the ground, was 4 meters from the top to bottom, and had a circumference of 3 meters. The orb shimmered with a beauty, with the smoke-like shadows of its trapped victims. All of the spirits of those who the Thought Bomb destroyed were now caught in an eternity of suffering, constant strife. Any living beings within the presence of the orb were compelled to gaze upon it, though they often found it grotesquely repulsive. If one were to touch this bomb, it burned with a cold fire, and the shadows within converged on the point of contact. whispering suggestions of hate and despair to the curious. If the being were to use the Force to mentally penetrate the orb, they would be subject to the agony of the shattered souls imprisoned within, an eternal madness languished by the spirits of those who had once been sentient, the wretched souls who assailed the curious penetrator en masse as attempted to drag the being into the inescapable depths of their suffering. But Force sensitives weren't the only ones affected by this horror. The aftermath of the thought bomb's explosion would result in a powerful nexus on the planet. This would cause the environment of the world to experience an abrupt shift in weather patterns. On Ruusan, a mostly rainforest-like world, it experienced snow for the first time in the world's history and would have harsh winters from that point forward. And a large portion of the world around Ground Zero became a desolate wasteland. Much of the indigenous life forms that were unable to adapt to the change were driven to extinction. So what would have possibly led to the creation of this weapon? Something so terrible. The very origins of its inception come actually from Darth Vitiate. At the beginning of Vitiate's rule, he achieved immortality and ultimate power by combining the minds of thousands of Sith in one ritual. The result was a ritual which consumed all the life force and energy of the planet of Nathema, as Vitiate funneled all of its force energy directly into himself. When Revan found out about the ritual when digging into the origins of Vitiate in the unknown regions, he transcribed the knowledge of the Nathema ritual into his holocron. The Revan holocron was then kept in the Rakata temple of Lihan for nearly 3,000 years, until the day when Darth Bane got a hold of it and studied it in great detail with fascination, nigh obsession over Revan's teachings. Inspired by the knowledge of the Nathema ritual, Bane created the Thought Bomb, a ritual meant to serve as a double-edged sword. Bane created this with the full intent for it to backfire on anyone that used it, knowing that their leader at the time, Lord Khan, would be desperate enough and may actually use it if prodded. Bane handed the knowledge of the ritual to Lord Khan, pretending to surrender it as an offering to a superior. The Brotherhood of Darkness during this period was locked in a war of attrition with the Jedi Army of Light. They were already desperate and desired a swift end to the war. We actually did an entire video on how the Ruusan campaign was the bloodiest conflict in all of the Sith and Jedi's history, so if you'd like more information on that, please check that video out. But moving on, Lord Khan had been driven to the very limits of his sanity, and Bane saw that, as he then orchestrated the Jedi to receive some much-needed reinforcements. After losing the 7th Battle of Ruusan, a battle which Lord Khan had expected to be an overwhelming victory, Bane hissed in his ear that the only way to ensure victory was through the use of the Thought Bomb. Khan accepted his proposal and took the entire Brotherhood down into the caves of Ruusan in order to conduct the ceremony. Bane himself, though, immediately fled the area as fast as he could, as the Jedi General Hoth learned of the ritual and took with him 99 other Jedi volunteers, marching deep into the catacombs in order to sacrifice themselves to stop the ritual. But the Jedi were too late. The Thought Bomb had been created, and as Lord Hoth himself rushed to Lord Khan, the Dark Lord detonated the bomb, instantaneously obliterating himself, the entire Sith Brotherhood, and all 100 Jedi in the cave. Lord Khan had been tricked, and his spirit was consumed into the seething vacuum. The release of such potent energy combined with the broken spirits of those trapped within the bomb's void turned the 0 point into a Force nexus, equally balanced between the light and the dark side. The Ruusan survivors of the Thought Bomb remained on their homeworld and endured a life of turmoil, a consequence of the devastated planetary's ecosystem. Ruusan was abandoned by the Republic in the years that would follow, as the Republic also abandoned the Force Nexus, naming it the Valley of the Jedi, as even the valley was lost to record and time. For the next 1,000 years, the Jedi spirits were subjected to perpetual torment within their prison bomb. But all hope was not lost. 5 years after the Battle of Yavin, the former Inquisitor turned Dark Jedi Jarek went to Ruusan with the intention of using the Force Nexus to give himself ultimate power. The Jedi Kyle Katarn would track down Jarek and face him in a climactic duel. The two wrestled for control of the Nexus, but the battle ended with the Inquisitor's death. But the conclusion of their fight led to the release of the trapped spirits in the bomb, allowing all of the Jedi that gave their lives to finally become one with the Force, finally liberated. And that, my friends, was just about everything that you needed to know about the Thought Bomb. The Thought Bomb wasn't really a weapon at all. It was a thought that the ancient Sith created in a state of madness to wipe out their opposition. But Bane designed this as a method to purposefully backfire on the Sith. The Sith were Bane's targets all along. The reason the thought bomb was only used once was because it only needed to take care of the Brotherhood of Darkness. It isn't confirmed whether or not Darth Bane recorded any of the information about the thought bomb whatsoever, as he believed it was too dangerous for even the future generations of Sith, and viewed it only as a drastic measure. Bane feared that his creation could easily destroy the Rule of Two as quickly as it could aid it. But tell us, friends, what are your thoughts on the thought bomb and the old Sith weapon? And as always, may the Force be with you.